Hey guys, welcome back. In this lecture, we will look into the types of hydrocarbons and we'll go in detail about alkanes alone. Now, here is a brief schematic of the types of hydrocarbons that are included in your NEET syllabus. So, when you see, basically, I have divided them into two types: open chain compounds and closed chain compounds. Closed chain means just rings. Among open chains, you would have seen already saturated compounds, meaning these don't have pi bonds, no pi bonds, whereas unsaturated have at least one pi bond. And when it comes to alkyne, you have a triple bond, two pi bonds. An alkene is double bond. Okay, and the general formula for an alkane would be CnH2n plus 2. For an alkene with one double bond, you would have CnH2n, and for an alkyne with one triple bond, you will have CnH2n minus 2. Alright. Okay, if you have more than one double bond, obviously for each double bond that you get, you subtract two hydrogens. Closed chain compounds are of two types: homocyclic, meaning it is a cyclic compound where the cycle composes of the same element, and in our case, because we are dealing with organic chemistry, it will be carbon. So this is a cycle and these nodes are carbons. Okay, whereas heterocyclic compound is where you have more than one element in the cycle. For example, we have here pyridine. Okay, it has carbon and nitrogen, so it is called a heterocyclic compound. Even some of your amino acids are heterocyclic. When it comes to homocyclic, there are two types where you can have aromatic hydrocarbons. We will see aromaticity in detail, but just a basic primer, it needs to have 4n plus 2 pi electrons. This is not the only criteria, you need to have symmetry and conjugation. So usually the best example we always use is benzene. It has three set of double bonds, whereas alicyclic, meaning you don't have the aromaticity. You may have a double bond, okay, but it is not aromatic. Aromatic altogether gives a different set of property. The main example I can think about right now is, even though there are three bonds, this will not answer a test for unsaturation using bromine, whereas this would answer. So that's a major difference between aromatic and alicyclic, right? Okay, let's go into detail. In this lecture, I told you we are going to limit ourselves to alkanes and we'll take it slowly. So alkanes, most of you would have seen, regardless, I just have summarized the points here. They are saturated hydrocarbons, meaning no pi bonds. Okay. And we are talking about not cyclic, we are talking about acyclic compounds. So it's a saturated acyclic compound will always follow this molecular formula CnH2n plus 2. And because there are no double bonds or triple bonds, all the carbons are sp3 hybridized. Each of the carbon have four different bonds. They could be bonded to other carbons or other hydrogen or halogens or any other functional group, but the carbons are going to be sp3 hybridized. Now if you can see that I have sigma, sigma, sigma and sigma, no lone pair. 4 sigma bonds means I need 4 orbitals, so sp3 hybridized. A normal, sometimes n, what I'm trying to say here is there are no branches, so you can call them n alkane. If they are branched, you don't call them n alkanes, you call them correspondingly. They are in general colorless and they are gases, liquids or solids, and here you can see that I have given you the list of compounds that are gases, liquids and solids. And these, when we say solid, they don't have to be exactly hard solid, they can be waxy solids like paraffin. And also in gases, you want to remember that neopentane, okay, it's also a gas even though it has 5 carbon atoms. They're generally unreactive because it's saturated hydrocarbon, the bonds are not reactive much. They do undergo combustion. Combustion is basically you break all the bonds and join them with oxygen. Because these are devoid of functional groups, they are usually non-polar, okay, or very low polarity, right? Now you are expected to remember the roots: meth, eth, prop, but, all those. Right, moving on. First, organic chemistry goes in the same way for all the chapters. First, you will see general methods of preparations, or like to call it synthesis. Then your brief physical property. Then your chemical property, which are your reactions. So, general methods of preparation of alkanes involve the first and the foremost one, hydrogenation of alkenes and alkynes, or basically getting rid of the pi bonds and making them sigma bonds. An unsaturated compound becoming a saturated compound. You want to remember the name, match the following may be asked from this Sabatier-Sandrins reaction. Okay, an alkene or an alkyne completely gets hydrogenated to a corresponding alkane. All the unsaturation is gone. And the catalysts that can be used are, if you see here, if you want to do the reaction at room temperature, you have palladium, platinum or rhodium, even ruthenium can be used. Okay. For you guys mostly it's palladium or platinum. If you want to use inexpensive catalysts, these are expensive. Okay, if you want to use inexpensive catalysts, you can use nickel at 200 to 300, but this is not advisable for some compound because the product or the reactant might not be stable at this temperature. So either you're left with the choice of using palladium or platinum, or you can use an alloy of Raney nickel, which is nickel and aluminum alloy. All of the catalysts that you use, okay, they are completely regenerated provided you do the proper workup. Here's a schematic of how the hydrogenation occurs. You don't need to remember all the detail, but just a couple of steps. First, the hydrogen atoms are attached to the catalyst substrate. Okay, because we have seen thermodynamics before, anytime a gas molecule comes and gets attached to the surface, your entropy goes down. So adsorption entropy is negative. Okay. All right. Then why does it get adsorbed if the entropy is not helping me? You're forming a new type of attraction, meaning bond is formed. So delta H is negative. So we know delta G equals delta H minus T delta S. So this is negative. This is negative means this total thing is positive. So it's basically a competition between delta H versus T delta S. So the driving force for this adsorption or adsorption in general, gas getting adsorbed on a catalyst surface, is the enthalpy side, not the entropy side. Okay, this also comes in detail in surface chemistry as well later. Now, looking at it, the hydrogen is adsorbed and also the substrate, in our case the alkene I have shown, is adsorbed. On one side of the alkene, the pi bond gets attracted, or it attracts the hydrogen more likely, and one hydrogen is attached, and then in the next step the second one. So they are not going to ask you about mechanism, it's just for you to remember how it's going to be. Okay. Now if you see, the whole process depends on the hydrogens being adsorbed on the surface. All right, this surface. Now if you want the reaction to go faster, you can do two things. One is take a lot of catalyst, which is not advisable because they are expensive, or you can use catalyst with a very high surface area, hence it is finely divided. So for example, if you take this and you break it into pieces, you have multiple pieces, now your surface area has gone up. So hence you always use a finely divided catalyst, so the surface area is high, reactivity is high. Okay. This concept is going to come later, and also we will look into this when it comes to alkene. Stability of an alkene, okay, is going to be inversely proportional to heat of hydrogenation. So all this are exothermic reactions. Heat is given out. How much energy you are going to give out will depend on stability of the alkene. The more stable the alkene is, the less the heat of hydrogenation. This is also discussed briefly in our chapters before. Okay. When you are looking into heat of hydrogenation, in thermodynamics we have already seen in terms of resonance energy. Okay. For example, there are two alkenes, they are isomers. One of them is, let's say, but1-ene and but2-ene. Obviously the 2-ene is more stable compared to 1-ene. Both of them will hydrogenate to give you butane. but the amount of energy given out by but2-ene, the more stable isomer, is less compared to the amount of energy given by but1-ene. That amount of energy is called heat of hydrogenation. Okay, this is going to play a vital part in general chemistry. You cannot say which chapter in general. Once you finish organic chemistry, it becomes one complete chapter. Okay, so you want to remember this relation. A stability of an alkene is proportional to heat of hydrogenation, and stability of an alkene, sorry, it's inversely proportional to heat of hydrogenation. Stability of an alkene, we know that it is proportional to the number of alpha hydrogen because of hyperconjugation. Right. Now, I just take a brief moment here to deviate away a little bit. Hope not too far. Hydrogenation of vegetable oil. Okay, when you take vegetable oils, these are long chain oils, fatty acids. Okay, what they have is they have double bonds. Okay, polyunsaturation. These are vegetable oils. Okay, let's say for example you take your sesame oil or peanut oil. They have lots of these multiple double bonds, but the shelf life is not that great, and also it's not easy to be used. So hence what they have done is they've got a way of converting partial hydrogenation by limiting or hydrogen, meaning hydrogen is used as a limiting reagent. So if there is only very little, then obviously only some of the bonds are going to be hydrogenated, and you get monounsaturated compounds. These have a longer shelf life, and normally we call them dalda or vegetable ghee, but unfortunately even the cis bonds get converted to trans bond, giving you trans fatty acid, which are extremely dangerous. Okay? Hence it is always a good idea not to use dalda, or also it's called margarine, extremely dangerous for you. Okay. All right. Next step is from alkyl halides. In the previous step, we converted double and triple bonds to alkanes, so that comes under addition reaction. Here we are going to do substitution reaction. Basically, we are substituting a X group with a hydrogen. Okay. So the first step or the first type of reaction is basically using zinc or an active metal with HCl. Okay, for you guys, you don't use other active metal, you use only zinc, but there's also other possibilities that you can do for the same reaction. Rx plus H2 in presence of any of this catalyst will do the same alkane synthesis. Okay. Now here if you see, red phosphorus HI is going to be extremely useful. You're going to see much more about this in detail. Even here H2PD or H2 nickel will get the job done. Okay. One thing you want to remember, lithium aluminum hydride. Okay. It's a H minus donor, very strong H minus donor. So the H minus kicks this out. So basically it's a substitution reaction. Sodium borohydride is also a reducing agent, but not as strong as lithium aluminum hydride. We will see this over the course of chemistry. So you want to remember the exceptions where this is not useful, whereas lithium aluminum hydride is useful. This is one such example. It's an example here, methyl iodide. You just take the iodine away or the halogen away and put a hydrogen, so you get the corresponding thing. Seems like a simple reaction. So how does it come in neat? It doesn't come straight away. It comes as part of the reactions of the type A gives you B, B gives you C, C gives you D. This reaction could very well be, this could be C and it could be D. They can ask you to identify what is A, but they always give you the reagents. So as soon as you see zinc and HCl, you should be able to identify what type of reaction it could be. Right, this is one type where I can convert my alkyl halide to alkane. One more we can do is Franklin reagent. Franklin reagent is nothing but dialkyl zinc. Anytime you have a carbon metal bond, okay, any metal doesn't matter, carbon metal bond, those elements or those compounds are called organometallic compound. This has come in match the follower, not match the following, choose the best option once. Which among the following is not an organometallic compound? So basically you have to identify whether there is a carbon metal bond. This is an organometallic compound. A perfect example, carbon zinc bond is there. Dialkyl zinc is called Franklin reagent. When you take Rx and use zinc, an active metal, okay, you form Franklin reagent, which with excess Rx gives you RR. Okay, luckily you don't have the mechanism for these reactions, so many of the reactions you don't have mechanism will actually help you understand organic chemistry better, but also it becomes tedious. Okay, so this you just want to remember. So summarize zinc reactions separately. You're also going to see Lucas reagent later. Write down all the, once you finish organic chemistry, write down the zinc separately so you can quickly revise. One more reaction that is strictly not in your syllabus, but it has come once, more specifically in IIT JEE mains, is Core-House synthesis. Again, I always like to do organic chemistry in certain way where I can remember them in order. When I take alkyl halides, what are all the ways I can get alkane? Okay. The third one, such thing we are going to see is Core-House synthesis. Core-House, actually E.J. Core is one of the living fathers of organic chemistry. Okay, extremely accomplished chemist. So here you have alkyl halide with lithium gives you RLI, organometallic compound again, alkyl lithium. Okay, alkyl lithium. Now this alkyl lithium can react with copper halide to give you dialkyl copper and lithium compound, lithium dialkyl copper. Okay, lithium dialkyl copper. This is also an organometallic compound. Lithium dialkyl copper reacts with one more molecule of R prime X. The prime just stands for different R group. It could very well be the same, giving you RR. The importance of this reaction is, in this reaction if you take, for example, 3 carbons, here it is also 3 carbons. What if I want 7 carbons? So here I can take 3 carbons and this can be 4 carbons. 3 plus 4 gives you 7 carbons. So it is a way for me to synthesize higher order alkanes. So these reactions where you get higher order alkanes, even here the same. Okay? These are called step up reactions, meaning number of carbon goes up. Again, couple of things you want to know. Okay? Remember them in the same order. You don't have to know the intermediate species because nobody is going to ask you to write down. Okay? Even if you vaguely remember, that's going to be good enough. Know which ones are your organometallic compounds. Okay, the next one is Woods reaction, which has come many times in NEET in A to B, B to C type of reactions, where alkyl halide with sodium and dry ether gives you RR. So basically it's a coupling reaction, hence the name Woods coupling. R combines with another R to give you RR plus 2NaX. It has to be in dry ether because sodium is reactive with water. If there is a water in there, it's not dry ether. If it's wet ether, sodium will react with that and gives you R or NaOH, which can react with Rx to give you ROH. It's undesired reaction, so it has to be dry ether. Here if you see, symmetrical alkane is produced, meaning if it is R, okay, this side it is RR. Okay, let's take an example of an alkane. This, if we do this, the corresponding alkane that is synthesized is, so if you see there is a plane of symmetry. Okay, so symmetrical alkane is always produced with 2 times the number of carbons. If it is 10 carbons here, you get 20 carbons. Okay. Methane cannot be prepared because the minimum number of carbon is 1 plus 1, 2. So the smallest molecule that you can prepare using Woods reaction is ethane. All possible alkanes are produced with 2 different alkyl halides. Right. So what it means is, if I take Rx and R prime X, it can give you all the possible products. Okay. Now here is a brief mechanism. Maybe even I will show it to you guys. Let's say for example I use CX. This is methyl halide. I'm not showing you the hydrogens. Let's say for example this is CCX, ethyl halide. Okay. Methyl halide, you don't take only one molecule, you take a lot of molecule. Obviously nobody can weigh one molecule, it's impossible. So even if you take 1 mole molecule, that's Avogadro number of molecules. So there's obviously this will react with 1 more molecule of this and give you ethane. This will react with the ethyl and give you propane, and the ethyl will react with 1 more ethyl and give you butane. This is a problem with Woods reaction. It's extremely useful when you want to synthesize symmetrical alkane. Okay, let's say I want to synthesize only this. I'll use only ethyl. If I want to synthesize only ethane, I'll use only methyl. So Wood's reaction is not great for odd number of carbons. Even number means, let's say for example there is 22 carbons you want in the product. Just divide by 2, 11. So you take the corresponding compound and do Wood's reaction, you will get it. But odd number, if you do, you are going to get a mixture of compounds, and because they differ only by one carbon, their boiling points are close enough that you can't separate them easily. So hence not a great way to do it. There's two mechanisms proposed. One is a substitution mechanism, one is a free radical mechanism. Substitution mechanism is too simple. Okay. R minus is a nucleophile because it has electrons. It goes and attacks the other R and kicks out this. So basically this is the leaving group, this is the incoming nucleophile. So this is SN2 reaction, substrate and nucleophile attacking to give you RR. Right. Now, Wood's reaction can be done with an aromatic halide where the halide is attached to the aromatic ring itself, and if it is done with the aromatic halide, it is named after a different chemist, Fittig. So it's called a Fittig reaction. So if I can do Wood's reaction with alkyl halides, Fittig reaction with aromatic halides, I can combine them to give you Wood's Fittig reaction where I have both of these. So alkyl and alkyl gives you dialkyl, aryl and aryl gives you diaryl. In Wood's Fittig I have alkyl and aryl gives you alkyl aryl mixture. Okay, but again understand this can give you multiple products as well. Bromobenzene will react with one more bromobenzene also as a side reaction to give you this. RX will react with one more RX to give you RR as well. So you have no control over it. Okay, but this RR and this diphenyl is going to, they are a lot different than R aryl. So you can at least separate them using boiling point. You can do fractional distillation. Next synthesis is decarboxylation of carboxylic acids. So basically when you take carboxylic acid or the corresponding carboxylate and you use soda lime, which is a mixture of NaOH and CaO, slake lime and quick lime. When you take a mixture of this and heat it, it gets the corresponding alkane with one carbon less. One of the carbon is evolved as Na2CO3. So one of this carbon is going to go away. So you're going to always have n minus 1 carbons compared to the parent. So this is called a step down reaction. Okay. Here are a couple of examples, and I have chosen an example which is actually extremely different than a normal R group. What if this is H? Okay. This is sodium formate. So I'm going to lose one carbon, means I end up with H2. I don't even get an alkane, but I get H2 gas. Okay. If you use instead of formate sodium acetate, so there is one carbon, okay, other than the COO group, so you get one carbon. If suppose there are CN COO minus, you will get CN H2N plus 2 corresponding alkane and Na2CO3. Okay, here this one proceeds through formation of a carbanion intermediate. You want to remember that it proceeds. You don't need to know the mechanism, just know that this goes through a carbanion intermediate that will determine the rate. Okay, I'll show you in a bit why it is important, what type of questions can come. Secondly, if you see here, I need soda lime with heat, but if there is a carbonyl group in beta position, you don't need the soda lime. Just on heating you will get the corresponding product. Okay, so if you see here, this is the COOH group, so this is alpha, this is beta, so beta keto, that's what this means. Beta keto acid on heating, I don't need soda lime. This makes it extremely reactive to this one. Okay, because this goes through a carbanion mechanism. Okay, let's say for example this goes away, the carbanion is going to come here. C minus. The C minus is in resonance, so it is stabilized. So there is a driving force, so I don't need soda lime. Okay, let's see a couple of examples. So we can practice. This is the only way to remember organic chemistry. You are going to see a lot of reactions today. There is no way all of it will stick through it. Only way that you are going to get stronger is by practice. How many different acids can give you 2-methyl butane on decarboxylation? So I have to have 2-methyl butane. Okay, isopentane. How many of them can give you? So now my COH group can be here or here, both are same. Or the COH can be here or here or here. So the types of compounds that would have given me are, I could have used this. I could have used it, that also gives me the same. I could have used this, and also we could have used 1 2, okay, 1 2 3 4, okay, one more carbon here, right? 1 2 3 4 5 6, okay, 6 carbons giving you 5 carbons, 1 carbon less. So the answer would be 4. So multiple choice could be 2 3 4 5. You cannot afford to miss even one. COH here or COH here. See, COH here or here is same, exact same compound. So it doesn't really matter. Whereas all of these are different. So there are 4 different species that can give you this. So what are these 4? These are isomers. And what type of isomers these are? Positional isomers. Okay, but it doesn't come as positional isomer. Okay, it will come as chain isomer, because you don't normally take COH as position, you take it in the longest chain itself. So this would be longest chain here, so these would be chain isomer. What is the order of decarboxylation of beta keto carboxylate anions given? So I want to do decarboxylation, meaning this COO minus group goes away and gives you the carbanion C minus. So this is going to give you C minus. Okay, so the adjacent alpha carbon is going to get a minus charge. So if this goes away, I get a minus here, I get a minus here, I get a minus here, I get a minus here. Okay, now we have to look into which one stabilize the carbanion. Obviously, this can stabilize it the best. So if you see carbanion, N double bond O, this can actually stabilize through minus R effect. Okay, similarly, this one, C minus, C triple bond N. Okay, so this is also minus R. Obviously, this is much better minus R. The minus charge is an oxygen atom, so my Charlie is the best, followed by delta. These two are minus I effect. Okay, minus I of fluorine is obviously better than chlorine. So that will be the order of the stability or the rate at which they will undergo decarboxylation. What is the order of decarboxylation? The given. So all you have to do, if this is printed in the exam, just identify your alpha carbons. Oops. Alright. So I have my alpha here, I have my alpha here, I have my alpha here. Sorry. Okay. So I'm going to have my carbanion here. Now which ones are stabilized? So carbanions are stabilized by either minus R. If not minus R, you can use minus I. Okay, or you can look into hybridization. The hybridization of this carbon is sp, this is sp2, this is sp3. Okay, obviously s character is high, electronegativity is high, so this is going to be more stable compared to this. So the order is Charlie greater than beta greater than alpha. Okay, last one. What are the products A and B? So if you see here, I don't have soda lime, but it's giving me a product, meaning it is going to remove one of them. Why do I not need a soda lime? It's because if you draw this molecule, If you see for this carbon, this is alpha, this is beta. So if we just go to previous slide, okay, I know this is confusing here, but if you look at here, beta keto, double bond O, so this looks like beta keto, right? So this looks like beta keto, but it is also, it is a COOH group, but still nevertheless, because of that, the first OH will go right away. So your first compound is, first COOH will go right away. So that's your first compound. And then this I need NaOHCO, soda lime, to eliminate one more. So I get cyclobutane. This is how questions come in chemistry. Sometimes they are straightforward, sometimes they are a little trickier. You just get used to it. The next method is still the same. So if you see, I have ordered them first alkyl halides, next acid. Now this is also an acid or an carboxylate entity, which on electrolysis, okay, gives you the alkane that you want at the anode, and your cathode you get sodium hydroxide and H2. So now if you look at it, I have given you a mechanism here. You don't need to memorize the mechanism. What you need to know is, first step is RCOONA takes an electron, okay, takes an electron and gives you R dot. So you want to remember that it goes through a free radical mechanism. That's all. So anytime you have R, COO, coal based electrolysis, gives you R dot. Okay, and two of the R dots combine to give you RR. That's all. You don't need to remember the entire mechanism. What all you have to remember is, in coal based electrolysis at cathode, pH increases because NaOH is there, and the gas liberated is colorless, odorless gas that gives a popping sound, H2. Similarly, at the anode, you get the corresponding alkane. Okay, the alkane is going to have how many carbons? If you see, if there are n carbons here, okay, total number of carbon is n. Okay, here you will have, if you see two molecules combining, that means 2n. Each of the molecule is going to lose the COO group, so 2n minus 2 carbon atoms. Okay, for example, if I take CH3, CH2, CH2, COO minus, right? So I'm going to lose this. So I will have this as the product. This is the bond that is formed. So there is 4 carbons. So total is 8 minus 2 is 6. Okay. And also anode, the gas liberated is colorless, odorless gas that turns lime water milky. Coal based electrolysis is extremely useful. It can be used to synthesize your alkanes, alkenes and alkyne depending on the substrate. Here is an example. If you see, there are 4 carbon atoms here, plus 1, 5. Total 5 carbon times 2 is 10, minus 2 is 8. So you get the corresponding compound. Now what all do we know here? The compound that you're going to get is a symmetrical compound. Okay. So if there is whatever the number of carbons here, okay, if you see, it is going to be a symmetrical compound. That's one. Second thing is, we cannot synthesize unsymmetrical ones easily. Okay. If I take two different carboxylate entities, alkyl carboxylates, okay, they can combine with themselves and give you the symmetrical ones, and they can combine with each other and give you an unsymmetrical one. You do have no control over it. So just like Wood's reaction, this is not a great way to synthesize odd number of carbon atoms. And one more thing you want to do, just like Wood's reaction, because two R dots are combining, you cannot synthesize methane. You can only synthesize ethane and up. Okay. Next, using deoxygenation or reduction of functional groups. These things we will see in later in detail about when we can use Clemmensen and when we can use Wolff-Kishner, what's the pros and cons of each other. But you might have seen this in school as well. Zinc amalgam and HCl or hydrazine with KOH. Okay, this will give you the corresponding alkane. Any CO group, C double bond O group, aldehyde or a ketone will get converted to the corresponding alkane. And this does not affect any of the double bonds present. If there is a double bond in this inside this R group anywhere, it will be still intact. It won't be affected. Right? Now there is an even stronger reagent to do the same. Instead of Clemmensen or Wolff-Kishner, you can also do red phosphorus and HI. Extremely strong, and here is a list of things that it can do. Red phosphorus and HI is an extremely strong reagent, and the active ingredient here is HI. Okay? HI can react with any of them and give you the corresponding alkane. See, if OH is replaced by H, CHO, the carbon is intact, so I get RCH3. This becomes CH2. All this, the carbon is intact, RCH3, RCH3 and RCH3 here. So red phosphorus, all of them react with the HI here. Then what is the purpose of red phosphorus? When you do this, you get the corresponding I2, okay, that can actually cause side reactions, okay, so reversible reactions and side reactions. So I have to remove the I2, so the red phosphorus comes into picture and gets you Pi3. That's the purpose of red phosphorus. It is not going to convert any of this, but it's useful to convert the formed I2, so the reaction goes only one way. Now what you guys need to do is make sure these two are simple. You would have seen in school. Look at these functional groups. Anything that has RC double bond O group, RC double bond O H, RC double bond O R, RCO OH, OR, Cl. All of this will be converted by red phosphorus and also ROH. Extremely versatile reagent, very strong reducing agent. The next we are going to see is Grignard's reagent. Grignard's reagent again has a carbon metal bond, so it's an organometallic compound. Grignard's reagent, we will see in detail about when all it can react completely, but here we are going to see just the alkane part. Any time a Grignard's reagent reacts with a compound that has acidic hydrogen, okay, it will give you the corresponding RH. Acidic hydrogens are usually hydrogen attached to very electronegative group or atom. Most of the time acidic hydrogen for you is OH. Okay. Here is a set of reagents that can give you the RH from RMGX. When you see, it doesn't have to be very acidic. H2O is nothing but HOH. So there is the acidic hydrogen. ROH is acidic hydrogen. Same ammonia as NH bond, electronegative atom. Okay, this is new for some of you. And terminal alkyne is acidic because this is a sp hybridized carbon. S character is high, electronegativity is high. So this is acidic. Because of this acidic property, it is going to give you tolerance and fillings as well. We will see later. Needless to say, this is an acid, means it's acidic hydrogen. Phenol has acidic hydrogen. It's a property of phenol. Similarly, it's Cl. Okay. Now we have seen all the ways that you can synthesize alkane. Now a brief set of properties. Okay, physical properties first. First is boiling point. Boiling point of alkanes I showed you in the beginning itself. Boiling point increases as the number of carbon increases. In general, in chemistry, boiling point is proportional to intermolecular forces. The higher the intermolecular force, the higher the boiling point. But here there is neither dipole or hydrogen bonding. So the predominant intermolecular force is van der Waals forces. Just two molecules attracting each other. Sticky forces. Obviously, the van der Waals force increases as the number of carbon increases. So boiling point is proportional to number of carbons, which in essence basically saying boiling point is proportional to molecular weight. Okay. But two compounds which are isomers having same molecular weight can have different boiling point. It also depends on the shape of the molecule. Okay. In general, boiling point is high for linear molecules and boiling point is low for spherical molecules. Okay. Now if you see, we can actually validate all this. Boiling point is proportional to molecular weight, so the lower the molecular weight, C1 to C4 is gas, whereas C5 to C17 is liquid, and anything above is waxy solid. Okay. Now if you see, I have neopentane here. Neopentane is nothing but 2,2 dimethyl propane. This is where the molecule N-pentane is linear, so it is a liquid, whereas neopentane is spherical. So a spherical molecule. So take a linear molecule for example. It can interact with the linear molecule in so many places. All these are forces. Whereas a spherical molecule can attract only a couple of places. Hence, the more the spherical the molecule, the lower the boiling point. Here's a schematic of the boiling points. You can see that they keep going up, and this is room temperature. So C1, C2, C3, C4 at room temperature are gases, whereas the rest are liquids or waxy solids. Solubility. Alkanes are non-polar because they are devoid of functional groups, so they are non-polar. They will be soluble in non-polar solvents, and they will be insoluble in polar solvent like water. You can see here oil and water are immiscible. Density increases with increasing in molecular mass. You're packing more, so the density increases, but it doesn't increase beyond a certain level. It max out at 0.8. So water, roughly the density is 1 gram per mil. So water is 1 means all of the hydrocarbons, alkanes, are going to be less than that of water, meaning they will always float. They don't sink. Right? Chemical properties or reactions. First one you're going to see is a substitution reaction where you're going to kick out a hydrogen and put a halogen. Okay? It's a replacement of a hydrogen atom by halogen atoms. It could be any of the halogens. Simple reaction is shown here. I kicked out one hydrogen for an halogen and I got RX. We can also get this back RH by any of the methods we have seen before, Corey-House synthesis or Franklin reagent or zinc with HCl. Alright. Or I can do RX into RMGX into acidic hydrogen will give you RH again. Okay. How can I do this reaction? So I need to initiate it. This bond is not very reactive. It's a saturated dormant bond. So I have to make it reactive. So I need not just an halogen and an alkane. I also need either a high temperature to cleave the bond or a UV light to initiate the reaction. Okay. UV light is also written as HNu. It is known that it undergoes through a free radical mechanism. You guys are expected to remember these two statements. The reactivity order is fluorination more faster and violent actually compared to chlorination, which is more vigorous compared to bromination compared to iodination. Iodination in fact is extremely slow and reversible. It's very hard to do iodination at all. So this is not easy to do. Fluorination is also not easy to do for the other reason. It's more violent, so you cannot control this reaction. So if you want alkyl fluorides, you have to do an indirect method. So this method is extremely useful for chlorination and bromination. This is on the halogen side. What about the alkane side? The rate of replacement of halogen of hydrogen in alkane is 3 degree compared to 2 degree compared to 1 degree. Straightforward free radical mechanism. So 3 degree free radical is more stable than 2 degree free radical, which is more stable than 1 degree free radical owing to hyperconjugation. Okay. The major problem with this way of doing it is, okay, maybe I'll just take a minute here and draw this. So there are 3 plus 3 plus 3, 9 alpha hydrogens, 6 alpha hydrogens, 3 alpha hydrogens. So obviously this is going to be more faster. Right? Polyhalogenation is possible, meaning it won't stop with the product that you want. It will end up giving the completely chlorinated product. So if you want to stop here, we can still do it by taking this. See, the problem here is my chlorine is available in excess. What if I take chlorine as the limiting reagent and this as the excess reagent? So the chlorines are less, so the alkane molecule has to compete with the less number of chlorines, so you will end up with mostly this and a little bit of this and extremely less amount of this. Conversely, if I want CCl4, what I would do is I would take this as the limiting reagent and supply excess of chlorine, so all of them are completely chlorinated. And here is a mechanism for the free radical halogenation. You don't need to be able to draw all this, just a couple of key pointers here. The first step is chain initiation. You need light for this. So normally H nu. So it initiates and formation of a free radical. In chain propagation, a free radical gives rise to another free radical. Okay. An alkane with a free radical gives you alkyl free radical, which combines with chlorine to give you alkyl halide and another free radical. A chain termination is when a free radical combines with a free radical to give you stable compound. So if you see chain initiation, on the right side there is free radical, propagation both sides there are free radical, chain termination only left side there is free radical. Now obviously it's not all that simple. If you see, you can get multiple products, not only alkyl halide that we want. The R dot doesn't necessarily have to combine with Cl dot, you can combine with another R dot to give you RR. Okay, so this is not a great way of synthesizing the desired alkyl halide. Right, now that we have seen the basic mechanism, bromination goes through the same mechanism. One note that I wanted to say, I just mentioned in last slide, iodination is extremely slow. So it is actually a reversible reaction. This can go back to this, so I cannot get my desired iodination product. So what we can do, we can use it in presence of a strong oxidizing agent which oxidizes my Hi into I2. This equilibrium is backward oriented only when there is Hi. If I remove the Hi using Le Chatelet principle, I am pushing it to the forward. So if I want a reaction to go forward, I can remove Hi or I can add my substrate. By removing Hi through this, not only I am removing this, I am also adding my reactant. So it is going to go forward, so it destroys my Hi. Alright, now I just told you that these steps are same for bromination. Just a important thing that you want to note, when you take the same substrate, bromination can be done and chlorination can be done. Ignore the temperatures. Okay, what is the main thing that you want to see is, you will always see that in chlorination the different isomers that you can see here, there are two types of carbons. This carbon and this carbon is same, this carbon is different, so there is two monochlorinated products are possible. Okay, two monochlorinated products are possible and they are almost similar, whereas in bromination only one of them is predominant. Same with this one, this carbon, this carbon and this carbon is same, this carbon is different, so there is two products possible. Okay, whereas here with bromination one product is extremely high. Chlorination is faster, fluorination is extremely fast, chlorination is next faster. So let's say for example you form this radical. Okay, the chlorination is fast, so it will combine with Cl dot to give you this right away, whereas when it comes to bromination, once this radical is formed, it's not fast enough, so this will rearrange into this. Okay, so you will end up getting only the most stable radical and the corresponding alkyl halide. Same thing over here. See here, I can form this radical which will combine with chlorine right away to give you this compound compared to this compound, whereas here I have the time for this to rearrange, hence I get this as the major. Here I get this as the major just because of probability. There's three carbons that are going to give you the same isomer, only this is going to give you a different isomer, so probability of this is very high, so this is the major, whereas here probability or not, rearrangement is very high, so you get the more stable free radical, and more stable free radical means the corresponding alkyl halide is formed. Now what we have done essentially is, the region where the chlorine goes or bromine goes, okay, is dictated by the type of reaction. So this is called regioselectivity. Particularly bromination, the region is selected where I want to go. Chlorination is chance, whereas bromination is very selective. So this is called regioselectivity of a given reaction. Okay. The next set of reactions we are going to see is combustion, meaning basically taking an alkane, combusting with oxygen to give you corresponding oxides, here carbon dioxide and water. No need to worry about these numbers, you can actually write CO2 and H2O and balance it. Okay, this is complete combustion, and all complete combustions are exothermic. We have seen this in thermodynamics. Hence, alkanes can be used as fuel. Example: petrol, diesel, or natural gas, or our LPG cylinder. All those. If I don't have enough of oxygen, okay, then the more electropositive element or less electronegative element gets oxidized first. So between carbon, which is electronegativity of 2.4 that we have seen in periodicity, hydrogen is 2.05. This is less electronegative, so this is more likely to be oxidized by oxygen. So H2O is formed and carbon is left as it is. Okay, this is in presence of extremely less amount of oxygen as limiting reagent. Okay, this carbon formed is black powder, which is used for printer ink that you see in the inkjet printer. You can actually mix with the solvent, or laser printer, black pigments, and also as filters, carbon filters. Okay, extremely useful as carbon filters. They can be used in mask. Okay, at the time of coronavirus, if you can actually have a carbon filter mask, it is actually extremely useful. The same methane, if I have a little bit more oxygen, okay, not too much that it will give me carbon dioxide, a little bit more, I get carbon monoxide. It's a way to synthesize carbon monoxide. Now there are four different reactions that are given here. These are memory stuff. Okay, catalytic oxidation. So instead of doing this in open container, we can do it in presence of a catalyst in a closed container. Okay, you get the corresponding compounds. You are expected to remember in the same way. If you see, these are oxidation series: alcohol, aldehyde, carboxylic acid. Okay, remember the corresponding catalyst. Copper, you don't need to remember a neat ever. Okay, maybe I'll say it again over a period of time. You don't need to remember the exact conditions like this, because you're not writing a subjective question. Just high temperature pressure is good enough. Copper in a red tube, okay, will give you methanol. Molybdenum oxide, okay, this molybdenum oxide will give you methanol, whereas manganese acetate will give you the corresponding acid. Okay, if this is a long chain hydrocarbon, it will give you long chain fatty acid. A 3-degree carbon, okay, a tertiary carbon, KMnO4 normally doesn't oxidize 1 degree and 2 degree. 3 degree is sterically strained. Okay, ஒரு கார்பனை சுத்தி 3 கார்பன் இருக்கு, extremely strained, it wants to release the strain. So 3-degree carbon alone, okay, a 1 degree and 2 degree does not undergo. 3 degree alone undergoes oxidation and gives you corresponding alcohol. So you don't lose a carbon here, the number of carbon is the same as what you started with. Right. Reactions of alkanes, some of them which are memory reactions, they don't come under any specific type. Isomerization has come very rarely in NEET, but your catalysts are important. Remember anhydrous AlCl3 and HCl. Now anhydrous AlCl3 means right away what should ring a bell for you is it's a Lewis acid, Friedel-Crafts reaction, but I don't have an RX or an RCOX, alkyl halide or acyl halide. Hence I should know that this does not undergo Friedel-Crafts reaction without that substrate, so I will undergo isomerization. This is not a great reaction because C6H14 can give many possible isomers, not just these two, other possible isomers too. So you cannot really say which isomer you will get. Hence they don't ask you much. Aromatization has come few times. Okay, you have to remember any of these three catalysts will give you aromatization. High temperature and pressure, you don't really need to know. 6 carbons are there, so I will get the corresponding 6 carbon aromatic compound. It's basically 6 carbons. You are going to close the ring, a ring closure. If it is 7 carbons, then you don't get a 7-membered ring, because 7-membered ring is not aromatic. So you get a 6-membered ring and the 1 carbon is outside. If there is 8 carbons, then what we can do is we can get ethylbenzene or xylene, but xylene can be ortho, meta and para. So 4 different isomers are possible. The last one is reaction with steam. An alkane reacting with steam gives you carbon monoxide and H2. This is a great substrate for hydrogen usage. Okay, CH4 straight away can be used as a combusting fuel, but it cannot give you hydrogen. But whereas if I do this reaction, it gives you hydrogen, which is a useful fuel in fuel cells and also other hydrogenation reactions. CO and H2 together is called water gas. Okay. Alright, so this is the end of our alkanes chapter. Alkanes are probably the most dry chapter among all of organic chemistry because the functional group isn't that exciting. Nevertheless, there is plenty of alkanes in real life. All your oil that comes, a lot of them are alkanes, so they are very good precursor for synthesizing other organic compounds. Okay, so now the only way you can remember them well is by practice. So I'll send you guys worksheet and also I'll solve and post a video solution for that as well. Okay, any other doubts, please let me know. Thank you guys.